Hi everyone, good Friday afternoon and welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for kicking off this start to the almost weekend here in downtown Providence, as we do most Fridays. Kick off with former state representative, former Deputy Secretary of State, now heads up the nonprofit Stages of Freedom, Ray Rickman, to give us Big View.
So we live in troublesome times. There are also good times. I tell people who are terribly pessimistic, good days will come again without Donald Trump. Hold on. Now, why are we talking about Trump this week? Actually, it's been a while. We're talking about him because every law professor in America, every constitutional lawyer in America, every historian in America, 98% of them, think that he is an idiot on this issue of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, ratified in 1868. Now, Mr. Trump may not even know what the 14th Amendment is about. Let me be kind and say he does. What is it about? Well, slaves, all born in America or not born in America, but thought to be, were free. In 1865, 1866, everybody got their freedom. And then you had a problem. People started saying, well, they're free, but they can't vote. They're not citizens. And so first Mr. Lincoln, but Mr. Grant and everybody got together, and even Mr. Johnson, and said, we're going to pass 14th Amendment to the Constitution. If you're born in America, you are a citizen. Now, this is true in 3/4 of the countries in this continent, including Canada and Mexico. Born on the soil, you're a citizen. Now, it's very difficult to do what he wants to do. He wants to say, if you're born in this country, but your parents are not citizens, then you aren't either. Now, a lot of viewers, listeners, people with us today know that sometimes their grandparents sneaked into America on that little path in New Jersey. A lot of Italian Americans did. A lot of people came down from Canada, French Canadians. A lot of people, Portuguese, just sailed in to New Bedford or wherever and got off the boat. That's certainly true, they think, of more than 40% of Cape Verdeans. They had a place to work and they just showed up and they didn't go to Ellis Island. So that's my first question to Donald Trump. How many generations are we going to go back? See, in my family, my great-great-grandfather was a slave, and he became a citizen in 1868. So, but when he was born, he was not a citizen. So are we going to take his citizenship away? And if that's the case, then I, 5 generations later, former state rep, former deputy secretary of state, lifelong voter, guess what? Going to take away my citizenship? Along with all the Italian Americans and Irish and French Canadians whose parents did not come here legally. 1 generation, 2, 3, even 4 generations ago. Donald Trump is doing this to see how stupid we are. But there are 50 or 60 million Americans, 80% of them not Latinos, who lose their citizenship over this. Even Paul Ryan, conservative, right-wing, Speaker of the House, came out against this racist, stupid, backwards, legally illegal effort on the part of Donald Trump. Might I urge you to remember Election Day next week and start getting ready for 2020 to help turn America around back to sanity when we had conservatives, Bush, for instance, who were not idiots, not racists holding public office, not people trying to destroy the Constitution of the United States of America.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for kicking off your weekend with us here in a rainy downtown, but there's lots going on and you can't see right around the corner, but Providence's newest restaurant is opening, Sarto, and we'd like to welcome in Chef Robert Andriozzi. Thank you for joining us today. Rhode Island native, Mount Hope High School graduate, has been all over the world, New York City, back home to Rhode Island. Before we get into the nuts and bolts again of Providence's newest Italian restaurant, tell us about your culinary journey all around and then finally back to Rhode Island.
Yeah, so I grew up in Bristol. I went to Roger Williams, thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and realized very quickly that was not the path for me. And I ended up going to Johnson Wales, but I went to the campus out in Denver, and I spent 9 months there and came back east and went right to Tarrytown, New York, to Blue Hill at Stone Barns, and that really jumped off my my career. And after Tarrytown, I got right deep into Italian cuisine, working at Del Posto with Joe Bastianich, Lydia Bastianich, and Mario Vitali at Del Posto, and that really spearheaded everything that I'm doing today. And from that experience, I was able to get out to Italy and live on the Bastianich vineyard, and kind of parlay that into a cooking experience in Friuli. And after that, I basically came back to the States without a plan. And
how long were you in Italy for?
I was in Italy for 3 months.
Okay.
I wanted to stay there for a year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a one-year visa. They don't want Americans
to learn their tricks.
Right. So I came back without a plan, and one of my best friends from culinary school was still in Colorado, in Boulder, working at Frasca, which is a very great established Italian restaurant that actually specializes in the cuisine from the region that I was living in. So it was a great transition for me, and that experience was probably the most important experience that I've had in my career.
Okay.
You know, the restaurants that I worked in New York are behemoths. They really didn't teach great business ethics, and not ethics. I say like when you're making that much money, it's hard to kind of like see what a real restaurant.
Were you on the treadmill? Was a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, that Colorado restaurant was much different from the New York grind, and that experience at Frasca really established what I wanted to create here in Rhode Island. And I always knew that when I was in Colorado, I was going to come back home and do something here. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to do it here and in Providence. It's really exciting.
So let me get this straight: Bristol to Colorado to New York to Italy, back to Colorado, back to Rhode Island.
Exactly.
So talk with us. You said you knew you always wanted to come back to Rhode Island. How did the Sarto experience come together and you know, find you here today?
Yeah, so I moved back about a year and a half ago. Been doing a little consulting, and as I was consulting, I was trying to raise some money, trying to create my own project, and I was downtown a lot, and I kept on walking by that corner space, and I knew it was recently vacant, and I reached out to the owners of the building, my partners, the Jeffroys, and I was able to meet with Colin, and you know, Colin being from New York, we just hit it off immediately, and we're able to talk about New York restaurants, you know, the current state of the industry and where we think it's going, and it was really a match made in heaven. I couldn't be more thrilled to have him as a partner in supporting this project. And in that space, you know, on the corner of Way Boston and Dorrance, 2 historic streets downtown Providence with great storefront, it's incredible.
It's a beautiful space. The G is a beautiful building, and when you having these conversations, getting Sarto underway as a chef, and I think folks, if they're looking for that new restaurant, love the food side of things. How do you come up with the initial menu and then keep changing it? What was your vision when you said, I want it to be Italian in sort of this vein?
Yeah, so even going back to Del Posto, I learned very quickly with Lydia Bastianich and Mark Ladner, the commitment and the stories that can be told through regional Italian cuisine. There's 20 regions of Italy. Each region is so unique and so different. They all have their own intricacies and stories, and I want to celebrate that and use food and wine as my medium, and that's exactly what I was expounded on at Frasca. It was like that times 10 because you were doing it through a little tiny region called Friuli. So I knew that when I came back, I wanted to do regional Italian food seen through the lens of Rhode Island, and I keep saying Rhode Island becomes like the 21st region of Italy, and it's got to be 75% regional Italian cuisine, and kind of, yes, it means traditional dishes of bolognese and risottos, and how can we put our own Rhode Island twist on that? And for us, that really does mean celebrating as much local farmers, purveyors, distributors as possible. And that's the same aesthetic that you would see if you went to Europe. It doesn't. You would utilize what you have around you, and we want to do that.
So you talk about we've discussed in the green room some of the offerings. Very pasta focused.
Yes. We have 5 pastas on our menu right now. 4 of them are homemade. We make them from scratch, and we're very, very excited about that. It's a lot of work. It's a labor of love, and that is definitely the focal point of our menu.
So are you back there with your sleeves rolled up and you're like elbow deep in pasta, putting it through the machine?
Yeah.
Now, are you the type of chef? Will folks see you walking amongst the tables, coming out and saying hi? And
absolutely, 100%. I mean, we have an open kitchen. It was purposely designed that way. I'm definitely a chef that wants to touch tables and wants to get out into the dining room and speak to guests and see how they're enjoying their experience. I definitely don't want to be hiding back there. I want to have a more interactive experience, and I think that's we're very excited that we were able to accomplish that.
Okay, so it's, as I said, I think I coined it Providence's newest restaurant. If there's a newer one, apologies. It's just brand new around the corner here, and you've had some soft openings. So talk with folks. There's kind of a rollout of offerings, and including breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. So we are fully open for dinner right now, Tuesday through Saturday. Starting at 5 o'clock. Next week we'll be offering breakfast, which is grab and go, centered around our little espresso bar. And we're working with Down East Coffee Roasters, which we're absolutely thrilled about offering their product. So that'll be more like croissants, breakfast sandwiches, and pastries, which will the following week evolve into a more still low impact but more elaborate lunch, with soups, salads, and sandwiches. But it's really geared towards the businesses downtown. We want people to be come in and get out and be able to get back to work. There are a lot of businesses offering right now that hour lunch. That's something that is very interesting to us, but I think what we want to appeal towards the folks who are working jobs downtown and need to get back to work. So that'll be offered basically 7 a.m. to 2, and then from 2 to 6, a limited menu will be available for our aperitivo and happy hour, which is something that where we couldn't be more thrilled about. We want people. We have a beautiful, beautiful bar.
The bar is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I went the previous iteration. I have the high hopes. I have not set foot in Sarto yet. Might have to after this, but that bar space is unbelievably gorgeous.
It's big, and that does need to be a centerpiece of the restaurant. We want lots of prosciutto, lots of Aperol spritz and wine.
Okay, I'm there.
We do have a partnership with Revival Brewing, and we met with Sean Larkin, and I said to Sean, listen, I want a beer. And he said, well, what do you want? And I was like, well, I want a Peroni. I want an Italian Pilsner. So he said, well, how do you want it to taste? And I was like, I want to be able to drink 6 of them. That's what it is. So
you worked with Revival for a Peroni-based beer?
Yes, basically.
Just for you?
Yes, an Italian-style Pilsner for us. We're offering that at happy hour as well. Definitely some, like I said, some spritzes, some happy hour wine. We got to go now, but we want people to come visit us and check it out.
Fantastic. Yeah. And then there's going to be an official grand opening too, correct?
Yeah, grand opening is is next Thursday, invite only. Unfortunately. But yes, we're gonna throw a nice party and come wave and say hello, I guess.
Well, as we're here in downtown Providence, again, it's literally around the corner, so I'm very excited for you. Rhode Island native made his way back for Sarto. We did announce the news a couple weeks ago with the bio of Chef Andriozzi, but glad you could come in, tell us a little bit more about the restaurant. We really look forward to trying it. So Chef Robert Andriozzi with Sarto, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us this Friday afternoon. Would like to welcome in a familiar face, GoLocal columnist Bob.
Thank you. How do you know this is familiar? I just had plastic surgery.
Did a great job. Excellent. With Ray Rickman and his big view today kicking off about the president's comments about the 14th Amendment,
right.
Certainly have to start there.
Yeah, I don't think it's 100% sure that what Trump is trying to do with the executive order is unconstitutional, but I'd make it maybe about 98.7%. But having said all that, he made the suggestion for the worst demagogic motives. Having said all that, it seems to me entirely reasonable to look at the with the what do they call birthright citizenship. Maybe that should be changed. But if it's going to be changed, it ought to be changed through the laborious constitutional process. Maybe there are too many people coming here just to have babies, and then they can get connected with the U.S. I heard a figure yesterday, 11% or something of immigrants. I don't know if that's true. And this is pure demagoguery. But you should not do this kind of thing by executive order. Also, the border issue, this is just ridiculous. Several thousand men, women, and children walking to the border. You don't need to send the army down there. It's just ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, the thing about
at least not 5,000 troops. Yeah.
Executive order we saw under the Obama administration.
Right.
So much done by
That's
executive
right.
order.
That's right. A lot of people forget the
undone.
Obama administration was very tough on the migrants. It's interesting, the rhetoric of this. Very, very good point. Bush was very lackadaisical.
More immigrants than any other.
That's right. That's right. But he never got credit or blame for that. It's interesting how that just sort of slid by.
Well, I'll tell you, it's that final week leading up to an election, and
toxic. It's like swimming in a sewer.
You never know what we're going to hear from the president. But do you expect any surprises come Tuesday?
Not really. I think maybe some of the governorships around the country, which are be narrowly chosen. I think so. I think I think it's almost impossible given the numbers the way lined up this year, which is most difficult for the Democrats since 1914, that they will take the Senate. I think that's pretty much close to impossible. I think it's likely they'll get the House, but it may be somewhat narrow, more narrow than we thought. The Republicans have a lot of dark money coming in now at the last moment, and certainly their base is animated. You hear a lot about the young people, the millennials, generally don't like Trump, and they're coming out. I don't know, I've been hearing this thing for a long time. Will they actually make the distinction between posting something nasty about Trump on Facebook and voting? I almost get the impression some people think if they put something on LinkedIn or Twitter or something, okay, I voted. No, you actually have to get up, spend the exhausting 20 minutes and go vote. So I think the most interesting thing of this campaign, we'll talk about maybe Wednesday, is what was the turnout and where and who.
Especially
the demography of the turnout. I'm very interested in that.
Especially with again, the age groups that turn out. Yeah. Tuesday should be interesting. The forecast as of now here for Rhode Island is rain, depending on
which
that
is
level.
Good for the Republicans.
But just to keep folks who aren't able to make it
Well,
out.
now what happens, I think the Republicans traditionally have been more insistent voters. I think partly because the Republicans skew richer and they're interested in protecting their money more. Seriously, I think so. And they may have, they're richer, they've got more time options, I think. They're much less likely to work in a factory. So,
we'll see come Tuesday.
When I was a kid, the Republicans always prayed for rain on Election Day.
Well, we'll have full election coverage on Tuesday here at GoLocal, as we did on primary day throughout the day, breaking it down again in the evening here in the studio. So looking forward to that. Let's veer away from politics for a moment, maybe, if you will, with the story that GoLocal broke today about Blackstone Boulevard.
Yeah,
and the latest
I saw that yesterday. It's a great story. This huge mansion owned by the esteemed Paul Nicholson. Nicholson File, which he ran, was one of the larger companies in the world for a while, for a long while. It was based in Providence, made a lot of money, and I believe Paul Nicholson was the last head of it.
Yes.
And it's long since vaporized. Anyway, this is a lovely mansion on Blackstone Boulevard, which
on the
is
historic register.
The navel and kind of the navel of the universe of old Yankee and German Jews. And apparently, I guess the family, the people on it, they want to sell it, and there's a proposal to put 10 houses on, was it 3 acres, 3.5 acres, something like that, and tear down this gorgeous house. And we just found out about this, and I think this is going to be a Donnybrook. But again, it's a market economy. They could sell it as long as it passes all the zoning rules. Something occurred to me, maybe perhaps a school or an old folks home or something would come in and want to buy it.
Better and higher use than 10 tax assessors.
I recommended as you know, I recommended a methadone clinic, but that was rejected out of hand.
Well, this is not the first battle that we've seen on Blackstone Boulevard. The estate over on Blackstone Boulevard in Rochambeau was up for consideration a couple of years ago.
Beautiful place. Fountains. It had fountains.
And then one block over up on Bolton there, we have seen new houses be erected kind of one on top of each other.
Expensive houses.
Expensive houses. And, let's talk about this one, though. Privately owned, a private deal, even if it goes before the City Plan Commission and folks in historic preservationists come out and oppose it, at the end of the day, is it not, in fact, does it not lie with the owner, and is it not private property?
I mean, that's the issue. I think
zoning and private property.
The zoning, and the people involved in this seem to have checked out the zoning and all this stuff, and I think they probably could put 10 houses there. I think the only way they're going to save the house is somebody a lot of money. What do they want for this thing? Like $5 million?
It's valued at close to $5
million. Yeah. Somebody with $5.1 million to come along and make an offer for it. It's a little hard at this point to see an individual rich person or family moving in there. I do think there may be some sort of institution that could move in there, a school or something, but have you
seen the video? It's a beautiful property.
It's gorgeous. You got music. It's very. I wept. Really, it's just amazing. I want to see the Broadway show though. The gunfire in the background is a little bit too much, but
you can read on GoLocal today the big story.
Yeah.
So you've got your little cheat sheet with.
I talk a little bit about the. I think overall, even though I want to hear more about the SAT scores from the governor. Overall, I think the governor here, the governor of Massachusetts, have done a good job. Looking back at the last 4 years. I'm particularly interested, there's a book by Jeff Lewis, who, among other things, is the producer of Hill Street Blues, wrote a novel called Bealport, about a little town in Maine, a mill town, and what happens to it when the mill closes. In this case, a shoe factory.
And have you read the book? Or are you about to
I have read it, and it reminds me of the factory where they made Basquegians. And at the same time, right after I finished that book, I picked up a copy of Yankee magazine, of all things. There's a big story there about Bucksport, Maine, also on the Maine coast, where the paper mill closed. And I sort of ruminate on what do you do with a town that's too dependent on one employer.
Yeah, there's some commercial out there too, if you've seen it. Some insurer, I believe it's financial planning. It's about a town in Maine where 60% of the folks are self-employed and they don't get benefits. And it was looking at an older fisherman saying he wished he had thought things through more. But you see, I mean, more and more, mill towns abound in New England.
Right. And how do you have a diversified economy? Safely. There's the new mill, if you want to call it, for Bucksport is going to be an indoor salmon aquaculture place. Now that could end up employing several hundred people.
Indoor salmon aquaculture.
Indoor. Indoor, they use salt water and fresh water, pumped from the Penobscot River and from the ocean.
Fascinating.
And this is fascinating itself, but I'm a little caveat there. What if they become too dependent on that? You know, these nice people, and they don't want to move. You know, people don't, I can understand, it's like Hillbilly Legacy, you know, that wonderful book by, what's his name, Vance, J.D. Vance. These people, despite the harshness of the climate, you know, they are deeply rooted in these places.
Well, look forward to reading it this coming weekend, Bob. Of course, read Bob Wickham on Sundays on GoLocalProv.com.
Whether you want to or not. Right.
And we'll likely see you Tuesday or Wednesday because it's going to be all politics.
It's going to be pretty tumultuous.
Thank you, Bob. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with our last and final guest. It's Comic-Con weekend here in Rhode Island. We have a local 14-year-old who saved up enough money, earned enough money to have her own booth. We'll be right back. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the noontime show. The big news this weekend here in downtown Providence is Rhode Island Comic-Con, and I have someone who is displaying, Lily Castiel, and I'm going to have you tell me about your nom de plume. You saved up money to get an exhibit space. You're in the 9th grade at the Rocky Hill School, and you're exhibiting at Comic-Con.
So I actually saved up money by opening commissions on my Twitter, and I got a lot of commissions which allowed me to pay for prints and get a booth at Comic-Con.
Commissions on Twitter. So tell us, go back in the day to when you first started writing, pen in the hand, started drawing, knowing that art and especially comics, and these are unbelievable, and we'll go through each of them as well. When you knew you sort of had that art bug?
Well, I think it was back in 5th grade. I actually won an art contest in my class, and I got a lot of praise, and it made me happy. And I also started reading Marvel back then, which is a huge inspiration to me. I love the bold lines and the bright colors, so I started drawing and trying to draw, you know, just like the Marvel comics, and it kind of turned out like this.
Oh my goodness. And so as an artist and someone who's not an artist, talk with us about the mediums. How do you make these works? And we'll go through all of them.
So most of the time I use digital. I draw on my iPad either with my finger or an Apple Pen, which I also saved up for with commissions. And I draw a couple of different ways sometimes, but my main style is a bold line with neon colors. I also have drawn a few more. I have a lot of prints, but I only have these. So I kind of draw either really simple or big and bold. Yeah.
These are unbelievable. So saved up the money. I mean, how much is a booth at Comic-Con?
Usually around $400 with all your tickets.
And so it starts today. I saw you and your mom came. You had your passes on. How's it been so far? Now you've been to Comic-Con before? Yes, no?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how is it being there with your own booth?
It's actually crazy because when I was, younger, I always wanted a booth there, and now that I have one, it's actually crazy. I recognize some of the artists and all the people there, and I love the celebrities there, so the fact that I get to sell there is crazy.
And I'm pretty honored that we were able to whisk you away a little bit here for a press opportunity before you head back. You're going to be there throughout the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have prints for sale at Comic-Con?
I do. I also have pins, and I have open commissions as well, so yeah.
Very good. And so are you able to balance? Are you kind of in your booth most of the time? You're able to get out and go around? Is it striking a balance? Because again, you're not just a visitor. You're there for people to come see you.
I think I'm going to come out a little bit. I have a couple of people who told me that they're going to come and see me, so maybe I'll take some pictures with them. But most of the time I'll be in my booth selling.
Fantastic. And again, just 9th grade at Rocky Hill. I always hate putting high schoolers on the spot to be like, what do you want to do after school? I have to imagine art is going to stay with you and be in your future. Mm. Comics, digital production, any thoughts at this point of where you want to go with all of this?
I actually love to program, so I'm going to go to school for animation and programming. I already have the college I want to go to and everything. But I'd also like to make comics. I actually have a few that I have for ideas that I might print next year. So
might do your own comics.
Mm-hmm.
So we might have you back here in studio showing us your new comics. So tell us about a little bit behind the Castiel, the name, the nom de plume, if you will.
Well, I actually got nicknamed Castiel by one of my friends because I used to love the show Supernatural, and there's an angel in there named Castiel. So I used to think it was spelled with a K, so I used to spell it like that, and I thought it was a pretty name, so I decided to make it my own.
So is that how you're sort of known in the art world, is Castiel? More folks know you as Castiel than Lily?
Mm-hmm. Castiel or Lily Jane, either one.
So fantastic. Here it is on Friday. I was like, oh, it's Friday. The show's at noon. I'm not sure if I'll be able to get her in. Rocky Hill seems to really encourage students in the arts really achieve their passion.
The art program there is amazing.
So here we are. We're approaching the holidays and the springtime, as you said, working on the comic books. How much time out of school, besides reading, writing, and arithmetic, are you kind of, as you said, programming, though, I mean, as a really practical side of things, how much time are you working on your art throughout the week? I mean, are your parents finding you up all night in your room and working on stuff? I mean, is it just such a passion that you're always working at it?
My life is pretty much either school or artwork. So usually I find a nice balance to where, every other day I have a few hours to work, but the weekend is mostly where I work on my artwork.
And you talk about the comics and loving Marvel and the inspirations and the bold colors. How do you envision new concepts? How does one even come up with a concept for a new comic book? Is it a figment of your imagination that you somehow put down on the screen of paper?
Well, I've always loved certain stereotypes, like the hero stereotype or the underdog, and I always think of certain characteristics and the way that they look, and I always get inspired by that. So I visualize, one of my favorite stereotypes, and I personify them, and I make them have their own tropes and arcs, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, fantastic, and having Comic-Con here and presenting a Comic-Con as a 9th grader is huge. I look forward to hearing from you about the comic books moving forward. We look forward to featuring them here. But again, with Comic-Con dominating news and downtown, again, give yourself a little time if you're going by the convention center. There's lots of folks who are walking around, but it's a great event for Rhode Island and Rhode Islanders who are really getting immersed in it and having your own booth. Lily Castiel, I appreciate your taking the time to come in.
Thank you.
To come over from Comic-Con, do a little press op, go back to Comic-Con. But there'll be more press in your future, no doubt. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you, everyone, for kicking off your weekend with us here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Want to thank Ray Rickman, Chef Robert Andriozzi from Sarto Next Door, of course, Bob Wickham, and Lily Castiel. Be sure to check out GoLocalProv.com and find us on Facebook throughout the weekend. We look forward to seeing you back here on Monday for Business Monday in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel.